I just want to welcome everyone and thank you to our guests for joining us today. We've got a nice turnout today, which is lovely to see. As always, we so appreciate your support, the support you give us in various capacities to our experiential learning program, and especially to our students. It means a lot. Before we move on to the proceedings, I'm going to hand it over to Era, who will give the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Barb, and welcome to everyone. I will acknowledge that Western University, the home of SASAH, is situated on First Nations territory in the Great Lakes woodland region of Turtle Island that has been home to many nations over the centuries, including the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenapewauk, Chinanton, and Huron-Wendat peoples. The dish with one spoon covenant wampum has served as an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe for the sharing of hunting territory to ensure the viability of this land into the future. But after contact, treaty making between the Anishinaabe and Britain took place. And in the London area, we recognize the Treaty 6 London Township, the Treaty 7 Sombra Township, and Treaty 21 Longwoods. And when we recognize Indigenous peoples' relationships to this land, we also make explicit Indigenous peoples' ongoing presence in this place and their rights to self-determination. We also commit to our shared and individual responsibilities to uphold those rights, to contribute to the work of truth and reconciliation, and to celebrate, to honor, and to educate ourselves about Indigenous cultures.
Thank you, Era. I want to start by acknowledging the hard work our presenters today put into their experiential learning. I want to acknowledge their professionalism and their ability to handle heavy workloads. These students have taken on experiences during the academic year, and that's not easy to do on top of, full course loads, and in some cases, part-time jobs as well. So I want to tip my hat to you for that. I have the privilege of reading your reflections and your reports, of seeing the impact internship and community engaged learning has on you, on your understanding of your skill sets, on your career aspirations, and especially on your self-confidence. So I am so glad we hold these events so that your peers, your professors, your friends, and supervisors can also hear about your experiences and the impacts they've had on you. I will remind everyone of the ground rules. Each student has 7 minutes to present. We ask that you set a timer to make sure you're on track, because those 7 minutes go very fast. If you are presenting on one experience, we will give you up to 30 seconds grace. If you are presenting on 2 experiences, we give you a little longer, up to 2 minutes grace. If you hit those marks, I will start humming and hawing and trying to get your attention to get you to wrap it up. After each presentation, there will be 3 minutes for questions. We have a short program today, just 4 presenters. We had several students present in the fall, and several students from this cohort are undertaking 5-year programs. So I hope everyone's prepared for long sessions next year. So we will just be together for about an hour today, which is not necessarily a bad thing, given that at this busy time of year, I think, students, staff, and professors alike have lots to do. Okay. So with that, we'll hand it over to the students. Our first presenter is Puneet Dalwal, who will be talking about her internship with the YMCA Cedar Glen Outdoor Center. This is an internship that Puneet proposed and developed herself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I want to apologize for my voice. I'm not feeling well at the moment. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, could you please put your volume a little bit up? I'm so sorry. Okay, awesome. Okay. So Hi, everyone. My name is Pani, and I'm in my 5th year of SASAH. And today I'll be sharing my experience with the YMCA Cedar Glen Outdoor Center with all of you. Having worked with the Y before, and specifically at this location, I was excited to come back to see familiar faces and also to work with my community back home. So let's get started. Oh, oops. Okay, sorry. So before we begin, if it's possible, I put the link in the Zoom chat, or you can also scan the QR code on the slide. And if you could please follow that link, it should go to the Mentimeter website. So I'm just gonna take us there now. Okay. So if you could fill in the prompt, which asks you what comes to mind when you hear outdoor education, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll give a few seconds just because we don't have that much time, so I apologize. Thank you for those who are answering. I'll give 5 more seconds. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so we have some answers. Thank you to everyone who's answered. So based on what we're seeing here, thank you for everyone who's answered. Okay, so based on what we're seeing here, I was hoping for also some subjects to come up. But what I would assume is that no one is noticing one particular thing here, which is the arts, which I find very interesting. And it is a little bit disappointing to me as someone who is a SASAH student, but also is within the health sciences under kinesiology. There is the separation between the arts and sciences, which continues to be perpetuated into our society, and so much so in our minds that when we think of outdoor education, we don't even think of the arts. So I wanted to address that as well during my experience. Okay. Let me go back. Okay. Oops. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Oh no. Okay. I'm just gonna. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is being a bit slow. Okay, there we go. So before I relate the arts back to this, I just wanted to give some background about Cedar Glen. So this is my 2nd year working with the Y, specifically at this location. And although I had a gap between years because of COVID, so for me, when I think of the outdoors, it brings a lot of peace to me. And growing up, I always wanted to spend as much time as I could outside. However, I never really had as much experience with outdoor learning up until high school. And since then, I've always been intrigued by this alternative form of education. As research also shows that there's promising intellectual, physical, and mental health benefits for children and youth within these programs compared to traditional classroom settings. So that was something that was really interesting to me. And I just wanted to share how I actually found out about the Y. Even though I've lived in this particular area for half my life, I only found out about it because I was driving by and I saw the little YMCA sign and I searched it up and they had a job, so I applied. Otherwise, I never knew that it existed, which is also part of the reason why I find it so unfortunate that these opportunities are not promoted as much. And so since I enjoyed my time so much there, I decided to complete my internship there as well. Due to the pandemic, all of my work was online, as you can see by my picture over there. So it was all remote. And also you can see at the top is one of my supervisors, Simon, who is the outdoor center coordinator. You don't see my other supervisor, Jeremy, who is the outdoor education and operations director. And these two were the ones who mentored and supported me throughout this experience, and they answered any questions that I had and provided any feedback on my work. There's also some pictures about the Y as well. So my goals going into this were that I wanted to gain more experience working collaboratively with my supervisors as we work together to make the lessons and maintain communication to ensure we produce the best work possible and that everyone feels heard and acknowledged so that I can develop my teamwork skills further. Additionally, I also wanted to work on my problem-solving skills and time management, which are also skills that I gained during my time in SASAH. So I felt that I could handle even more of that during this time. And I thought that these skills were also integral to my desired career, which is teaching. And therefore, as this is an education-centered EL experience, I hope to gain career-related experience as well, specifically making lesson plans and creating an overall meaningful experience for those that come to the Y through these lessons. My primary duties, which were unlike how I pictured, as I wanted to do this experience pre-COVID, which would have involved working with groups more, but instead my duties included research that was looking at the grade-specific requirements according to the Ministry of Education in Ontario, and identifying curriculum expectations which can be met at the Y, also looking at the cross-curricular connections which can be used to merge the arts and sciences more, especially in an outdoor setting, and finally creating lesson plans, which was the bulk of my work, and it was according to the science units of each grade. So phase one was conducting the research. So here's a sample of what I did. So I would separate it based on the grades, as you can see on the top, and then on the sides would be the subject. So in this case, it's the arts. Under each bar would be the specific expectation, and then under that would be examples that I could include, and also links to websites which had examples of what we wanted to use. And the bulk of my work was a lesson plan. So hopefully you can see a little bit of what I did. I included a screenshot of one of the lessons. So I had to make sure the lessons followed the curriculum expectations while also incorporating the arts. So going back to my introduction, one of the key takeaways I had was that we can merge the arts and sciences together, and it also enhances the students' learning as they incorporate all these subjects into their learning. So this one is a grade 3 activity. Some additional duties I had were learning how to modify with the online environment. So this is an example, and it's a virtual or self-guided activities. And finally, my outcomes. So from this experience, I have gained and developed all the skills that I sought to improve, which included communication. And this was even more important in an online setting, as we had to make sure that everyone was aware of what we were doing and making sure we completed everything on time. So the other things I improved upon was collaboration, problem solving. Some career-related experience I gained was looking at the connections between the arts and sciences, and also creating lesson plans, and also reflecting and relating it back to SASAH and what we've done during our time there. And I can't do my activity, so that's okay. But I wanted to do a 2 truths and a lie. And I was basically going to show that the arts can be merged with the sciences, but that's okay. And yeah, so thank you so much for everyone for listening to my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. That was great. I loved your visuals there. Did a great job. And I hope it didn't strain the throat too much.
That's okay.
Okay, our next, oh, sorry, I'm ready to move on. Sorry, I'm not actually. We have our question and answer period. So if anyone has some questions for Puneet, we'll take those now. Okay, Era.
Hey, Puneet, thanks so much. That was really, really great to watch, and you packed a lot of information into just a few minutes, and it really was a very lovely presentation to look at. So thank you for that as well. My question is going to be about working in the pandemic, and those are the kind of unexpected adaptive skills that you developed in addition to everything else that you did for this particular assignment. And I think my question is, do you think that those, whatever happens in terms of the health of the world in the next few years, do you see an application for those in your future?
You mean in terms of having more online opportunities?
However you want to interpret my question.
Okay. I think so, but I also see that a lot of companies are going back to their respective buildings as well, and that includes the Y. So actually, in March, they started to work back in their offices. It's a hybrid at the moment, and I think either it might be more of a hybrid situation from now on, but I do think that it showed that there is the opportunity to engage in online work, although it is a different experience than what we typically expect when we do in-person work. I think that with the pandemic, everything has shown that there is definitely a possibility for those that want it, and especially with the Y, even though there's a lot of in-person programming, excuse me, it shows that there's other things in the background that can be done in an online setting. It just takes some time getting used to and getting new skills that you wouldn't have in an in-person situation.
Great, thank you so much.
Michael?
Can't help myself. So what was the hardest part? I mean, this may connect to Ara's question indeed, but what was the hardest part of this?
I think for me, the hardest part was I didn't think about how much time it would take to make the lessons and also how much work actually went into the lesson planning. But on top of that, because it was online, I only had access to whatever was provided to me by my supervisors. And a lot of the original lessons are just only available in person in binders. So obviously they took a lot of time to scan the ones that they did, but I unfortunately couldn't see everything that was already available. So that did take a lot of work on my part to just create everything from scratch. I was under the impression initially that it was going to be modifying a lot of the original lesson plans, but instead it was just coming up with everything brand new, and it was all of my own ideas. So it was a lot of pressure on me, I felt, but at the same time, I thought it was valuable because as a hopefully future teacher, I'm going to be having to do that on my own anyways. So yeah, that was something that I think that was the hardest.
Great, thanks. Clearly a crash course in that. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you. So I think we will move on then to our next presenter. Thank you, Kunu. That was really well done.
Thank you, everyone.
Next up is Gallus McIntyre, who has 2 experiences to tell us about. His internship with Yippee, which I just wanted to say, it's the Youth in Policing Initiative in Ottawa, and his internship with the Forest City Film Festival.
So for my EL credits, as Barb just said, I was a coordinator for a summer youth program run by the Ottawa Police. And then for the other half of my credit, I was a blog writer for a film festival here in London, the FCFF, Forest City Film Festival. So I'll start first by talking about my Yippee internship. So during the months of July to August of the summer, I was a paid full-time intern for the Ottawa Police in the Yippee program. So in grade 11, I was actually a youth in the program, which definitely helped with me securing a job as a coordinator this past summer. So in the top right here of the slide, that's actually me and my old team from 2017 in the Yippee program. And that lady in the middle is my coordinator from back then. So there's usually like 4 to 6 coordinators on a Yippee team. So and like 30 students. So I was a student, and then this past summer I was a coordinator. So the Yippee program, in brief, it's a mixed stream program. So what that means is that students are selected based on their belonging to like one of 2 sort of like types. Or so there's like students that have been labeled as at risk by the police for one reason or another. And then there's also students that have been selected based on their good merit and character. So just like any other job. So the way that these at-risk students are selected are either by either having relatives with a criminal background or having some sort of criminal background themselves at like a very young age, because they're all students, but like being isolated for some reason by the police, or school resource officers will also bring them to the attention of the Yippee program as like viable candidates. So the intention of the Yippee program is twofold. So one, it's to create positive relationships between these at-risk youth and the police, so that they don't grow up to be like criminals. And two, to spark an interest in policing for viable candidates. So the idea is that youth of the former group, they'll positively influence the at-risk youth, and then they'll create mutually advantageous friendships. So the way the schedule works with Yippee is that every Monday is a group day, and then from Tuesday to Friday, the youth get placed in their own placements, and then they basically do whatever that entails for the rest of the week. So to give you a sense of what I did as a coordinator, I'll talk about a couple of things we did on group days, and then I'll go through what my Tuesday to Friday looked like as well. So this was an example of a group day that we did pretty often. It's called the 529 project. So it's a program run by the Ottawa Police. It's only a few years old. So they were looking to Yippee to help like get it off the ground. So this is one of the examples of how like the Ottawa Police uses the Yippee program as sort of an extra resource, because police officers get paid a bit too much to do stuff like this, even though it's like important that they get done, and it's like an Ottawa Police program. So basically what this project is we install ourselves like by like some sort of bike trail where bikes often go by, and then people bring their bikes and we take a picture of them with it, and we input the serial number of the bike and all the specs, so that in the case that their bike gets stolen, there's some sort of recourse to try and get it back, or if it's uncovered, then they can verify that it is actually theirs. So yeah, that was an example of a group day and something that we did a lot. Another example of a group day, more police related. Well, we would get demonstrations from police officers from different units. So the pictures that you see here are we got like a self-defense sort of seminar from police officers. So we got showed how to use pepper spray, which is the bottom picture there, how to use handcuffs, different like striking techniques, and then also a demonstration from the carbine officers. So you can see me holding a big gun in the picture there. And yeah, so basically on group days, because Yippee also, one of its ambitions is to incite an interest in policing. Basically the police would just showcase all the different facets of what they have to offer, and just show the kids that policing isn't just like what you see in public, like officers patrolling the streets and like arresting people, but there's a lot of different, more underground elements to policing that you might not be aware of, that they just tried on group days. This was one of the aims for police officers. So my day today was very unlike anything police related. I worked at a summer camp. So I was the YMCA coordinator. So there are 4 Yippies that were assigned to be camp counselors for a summer camp, the YMCA summer camp. And this was a camp that it was for underprivileged students. So most of the campers there were there only through social assistance. So it was my responsibility to keep tabs on these 4 Yippies that were camp counselors and just ensure that they were meeting expectations. And yeah, like ensuring that they didn't have any like difficulties. If they had any problems, like they could voice it to me. I was kind of like the go-between between the Yippee program and the YMCA, just making sure everything was like seamless, no issues. Oh shoot. Okay, wait, I don't know how to go back. Okay, just for pretend like it's still the same screen for a second. Oh, never mind. So yeah, so it was my responsibility to do like a little report on each of these 4 Yippies, but they were all reasonably like good kids, and they didn't really need me looking over their shoulders all the time. So oftentimes I was just helping out at the camp in my own ways, which they were often short-staffed at the waterfront. So this is why I took pictures of the river here, because this is where I usually was, just bringing up canoes and wiping down stuff. and yeah, helping out the lifeguards and just doing things like this, super not police related, but still, needed work. It was an organization that definitely was short staffed a lot of the time, so it was good to help them out. My second The second half of my EL credit was earned through an internship, as I said earlier, at the Forest City Film Festival. So my responsibilities in particular, so we'd be assigned early on in the internship, we'd be assigned 10 to 12 hours of films to watch throughout the week. And then on Sunday, after everyone had watched these assigned films, we'd be expected to have our own reflections prepared and then have like a discussion about them. And this discussion pertained to multiple different things, like ways that the films could be advertised, like different poster ideas or just like different features of the films that we would like to like bring out more than others, or and the potential for grouping certain films together based on similarities, and also just general reviews in terms of how much like each of us enjoyed or didn't enjoy the film and why. Once all the films had been watched by everyone, then specific roles were assigned for in preparation for the festival. And then my role was that of a blog writer. So as you can see, and this also often involved conducting interviews with filmmakers to gather like the necessary information to write the post. And that's a screenshot right there. This is one of the filmmakers for a horror short that I enjoyed chatting with. And I would also always write a list of questions, which you can see depicted right next to his name's Fraser David. And that was just something I wrote beforehand to the interviews to ensure I got all the information I needed and that I would stay on track during the interview.
You're going to need to wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, shoot. Yeah, I'm almost done. So yeah, the blog posts, they kind of function as like a sort of advertisement to incite people to want to watch the films. That's basically, yeah. And then everything culminated in festival week. So and it was neat to see everything like come to life, all the stuff that we've been like working on for so many months, just different ideas getting tossed around, and then the finished products were all there to be seen. So that was a really cool experience for me. And then I was just pretty much like a helping hand at the festival, like, so just wiping things down, greeting people, scanning tickets, etc. And yeah, that's it. And taking pictures for social media as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gallus. Two very different experiences.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, if you could stop sharing your screen, then we'll open it up for questions. Heather.
Hi, Gallus. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather. I'm a staff member at Western. I work in experiential learning, so I appreciate the opportunity to hear about these fantastic experiences. And my question for you, Gallus, relates to, again, Barb mentioned you had two different experiences, and also, as you mentioned, that the YIPI program, and particularly the coordinator experience, is really designed to help participants consider policing as a career. I'm curious, all of these things combined, how have your EL experiences influenced your career decision making? What are you thinking at this point, or reflections based on your experiences?
I think, yeah, what was interesting for me with, because actually this summer I always planned on being a police officer like one day. Both my parents are also police officers, so I was just kind of always naturally like steered in that direction. But after being a coordinator, I kind of like, it put a bad taste in my mouth in a few ways, just policing. And yeah, I kind of, it actually averted me towards policing, which is, you would think the opposite, but yeah. And then my FCFF credit, like that's kind of just more of like an interest of mine, not something that I like would see a career in per se. Yeah, and I've just kind of like always known that, like even prior to like the internship. So yeah, it was a valuable experience, but not really like influential in any way in like my career, I don't think.
I think if I can just add, I think like sometimes the experiences, I think even discovering what you don't like can be just as valuable. I think that's one of the values of experiential learning for sure, right? You get to sort of try something out. And so I think like good for you for exploring that and discovering those things. And I'm sure whether even if it wasn't a career, if it was a particular type of task or environment or skill, like I'm sure there are things that you discovered that you will explore further.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Any other questions for Gallus? Okay, I think we'll move on to our third presenter. Thank you so much, Gallus. Up next is Mahi Patel, who is also presenting on two experiences, the undergraduate summer research internship she undertook last summer, and the SASAH communications internship, which she has been doing this year.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mahi, and I will be talking about the two starkly contrasting experiential learning opportunities that I had the privilege of experiencing during my time here at Western. So my second major along with SASAH is English, and you will see why I mentioned this because that academic experience was rooted in most of the things that I did over this year, past half year. So let's get to it. As Barb mentioned, I did an undergraduate student research internship at Western, and I'm currently a communications intern. I'll just be talking about the details and duties involved in whatever I did. I'll touch on some of the many skills that I got to develop over the course of these experiences. And I'll also discuss where I'm at and how I feel about these professional experiences at this point in my undergrad career. So as I said, I did an undergrad research internship with the USRI program at Western last summer. It was a 4-month gig. I was supervised by Dr. Suksi. And it was interesting because I had the complete freedom to choose whatever topic I wanted to study. I know I had other friends in the program who had to sort of assist professors in their own research, but I was given complete free rein here. And Dr. Suksi would help me with sort of the composing and framing of the project. But being given something like this was very daunting, but I chose to do it anyway, and I chose to study feminist scholarship in post-1947 India. I was motivated to do it just because of what I was reading in the news, and like the best projects often are. I wanted it to be grounded rather than something in an airy literary journal that would never make it out of a database. So the goal of the program at large was that I wanted to produce my research. I had to produce my research in a way and format that was accessible to the layperson. So, I mean, if you look at the name of the topic right here, that doesn't seem too accessible to the layperson. But I wanted to hone in on that very specific aspect. So what I did was I took 16 seminal papers in Indian feminist scholarship that were locked away in some inaccessible database, and I translated them into 16 blog posts, completely digestible language, and I wanted to put them up on some free, accessible, casual platform for people to access. So this was my progress halfway through the summer. This is like a screenshot of the platform that I used to write and organize my blogs on. I did face quite a lot of challenges, and I mentioned this to Dr. Suksi quite a few times, especially in the early stages of the project, because the scope was just too broad for me to comprehend. But I did get started. I was working a full-time job at the time of the internship too. So anytime I wasn't working, I was thinking about what sort of essays to include, what to discuss, how to make sure I was being considerate of the multitude of intersectional perspectives, just getting organized. And this was the final blog that I made live on the internet then, where I posted my thoughts on each of these papers. I contextualized them for a non-academic audience, and this involved like an intensive translation of scholarly language into accessible, comprehensible, and like concise blogs. It also gave me an intimate understanding of what it means to write in an academic tone, what it means to write in a casual internet-y tone. And it also taught me the basics of blog making and maintenance, which I think is a very important skill to have when you learn how to write for the internet. And because I was doing this process, these 3 things consistently, incessantly, throughout these like 3 months, it sort of really nailed into my head the idea of how to write for different people, how to write for different kinds of audiences. And it really helped me understand the discipline that goes into knowledge translation. This blog, though, wasn't the final formal outcome of the project and of the whole internship. The goal of the whole USRI program is that you don't write extensive theses or formal 20-page papers, but rather you present your work on a poster or in some form of visual media. So this makes sense when you're from the STEM fields because you're making something accessible in that field. And that's sort of, that necessitates such work. But for something in the arts where your process work is much more grounded in abstract ideas and theory and criticism, to sort of contextualize all of that into a visual format was challenging to me. But I did it. I made a poster. I introduced my project, noted down main questions I wanted to answer. I was, mentioned the blog work that I was doing on the side. It was a very rewarding experience. And then I also got to learn a bit about virtual conference software when Dr. Suksi and I were put through the ordeal of digital networking on GatherTown, this terrible, terrible video game of a platform where the whole USRI conference was held. It was strange, but learning about digital connection with human beings is very important, as we've learned in the pandemic, something that we must learn to adapt to. So I think that experience, although a sad one, was something I learned a lot from. So this USRI experience ended at the end of August. And then in September, I started my second EL credit work as the SASAH communications intern. That work is still ongoing. It ends in April, but it is something completely different from what I was doing over the summer. And at that point in September, it was a wonderful reprieve from just, endless academic journals and just, trying to read endless scholarly papers and all that. So my key duties in that role involved student engagement, sustaining a digital presence for SASAH on the internet, especially since we were in that phase where we were sort of like hopscotching from Zoom school to in-person university. And I was also sort of indirectly putting more of SASAH out there, trying to make it more visible, trying to engage with high school students, Western community members, London community members, just trying to put SASAH out there, make everyone more aware of the program. And one of my main duties was like handling the social media accounts. So there's like a screenshot of our Instagram page. I was responsible for putting up, featuring first-year students who were coming in this year. I was responsible for promoting some of the events here. I didn't make all of these graphics, but a lot of them I did. That involved a lot of design work. That's also a lot of practice that I did right there that really sort of honed those skills. Very transferable skills. And I was also responsible for promoting events and just, helping with recruitment a little bit when that time came around. I held this Q&A event for SASAH in February where we just, two other students and I just answered questions about the program and just, a very casual format. That was also a very new and very interesting experience to have for me. I am also responsible for showcasing student work. So two of the platforms that I'm responsible for are Pegasus and Iris. Iris is one of the SASAH blogs where we just, students send in their reflections on things that they learned in class. It's a very casual format thing. Whereas Pegasus is where we showcase all the student projects at the end of the year. Any and all projects done by all years over both terms. It's all, curated, archived, showcased, all done there. And that's also, this is very visual work. So I really enjoy this work. This is what I'm doing right now. This is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of April. It involves a lot of, fine tuning things and, paying attention to detail and stuff. And it's a lot of fun. This is one of the only things that I've done over the two, experiences that involves a lot of collaboration too. So I have someone I'm working with, which is good because I've been like in a very isolated space, isolated sense for the other two, for the rest of the other, experiences. So this is a very nice, break from all of that. But yeah, this is the Iris site. I redesigned the whole website. I worked with a second-year SASAH student who sent in her art. This is all stuff that she drew. And I'm working with her on Pegasus as well this year. And yeah, that is stuff that we're doing. And then we also worked on Cascade to work on the official SASAH website. This is a photo of me. This is what I look like. Yeah, just learned how web content management systems work, how how to organize information, how to make it more user friendly, how to, look at things from the user's eye, especially because, a lot of future students, potential students come in and this is the face of SASAH that they see first. So I learned a lot about how to do that. This is still a work in progress. This is the stage that I'm at. The image is the stage that I'm at, but I'm working on it. It's a learning process. And overall thoughts, just to include, both experiences were enriching, even though it was difficult at times. I definitely craved the collaborative nature of work at times, since both my roles involved a lot of individual work, as I said. But stuff that I'm improving on as I transition out of these experiences and into university, out of university into real life, time management, perhaps a little bit more of time management too. Learned not to say yes to everything, rode the dummy's guide to burnout. All the things I'm very glad that I'm reflecting on and experiencing at this relatively early stage in my life. And what I'm glad that I got out of these experiences was communicating ideas, something very simple, yet something also very difficult. I got an insight into two completely different worlds, one very academic, one very practical. And I've seen myself grow these past few months. And I think that whatever I learned, be it technical stuff on the job or more softer skills, I think I'll definitely be carrying it with me wherever I go after April. And it is definitely
you need to wrap up, Mahi.
Yeah, just one more sentence.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it just sort of affirmed the importance of an arts and humanities education for me, and to experience the value of this was great, so yeah, that's all. Did I finish on time? Did I go over time?
You went a bit over, but that's okay.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm so sorry to Avery.
That's okay. Yeah. I could have looked at your images from Iris all day. Those are stunning. I can't wait to see the whole thing.
Louisa from second year SASAH is to thank. She is a genius. Forever in awe of her.
Yeah, beautiful. And she's going to be taking over your role next year.
Yeah, she will. Yeah.
As much as we hate to lose you, we're glad Louise is on board. Does anyone have any questions for Mahi? Puneet?
I was gonna put my hand up. I thought that was a really great presentation. It was really nice to hear all your experiences. I was wondering, specifically regarding your first project, how did you deal with all of the different articles regarding feminist literature post-partition, just because there's so many different cultures and so many groups of women within India? And then also, like, were there any barriers to language that you had? I don't know if you speak other languages as well, but.
Yeah. I'm actually an immigrant, so I only moved here 8 years ago. So I still have like ties to India in terms of knowing what sort of writers, what sort of thinkers are still prominent in their contemporary landscape of, just feminist activism. So definitely knowing who these people are, what sort of books, what sort of scholars, what sort of, everything that they read, what they've read was very important to my understanding of things. The translation that I was talking about was just, not literary translation. I'm so sorry. I forgot to clarify that. That was like the main point. But yeah, it was not literary. It was all written in English. But yeah, definitely having access to that language from there was very important too.
So I recognize that. I just wanted to say, I meant within your work, was there any sort of issues with papers that ended up being from other potentially other languages? That's what I meant. I realized that it was not. Thankfully it was all in English.
But yeah, getting access to those papers was a challenge. Western for example, doesn't offer access to Sage journals, I think. So I had to reach out to a friend in Lethbridge and be like, can you give me your password? I need to find this paper. Please help me. So there was some of that technical stuff, but for the most part, I think it was fine to find, just because I had that sort of cultural background to help me persevere through it. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Puneet. Constanza.
Thank you, Barb. Hi, Mahi. How are you?
Hello. It's been long.
Yes. I have a quick question. Generally, when we talk about experiential learning, we think about what we have learned in the classroom, that we can then bring to the workplace. My question is, in regards to the first project you presented on, your work as a research assistant, is there anything you learned that was useful for you as a student going back to the classroom?
Yeah, I think the having to read dense academic literature on just about everything, especially when you're in SASAH, you're reading all kinds of things from a different, like a whole range of fields. So I think it was very, very nice to sort of consistently practice that sort of critical reading over the whole summer. That helped me approach the readings that I had after, like in my fourth year, much more easily. It sort of helped me, just read things with a much different lens too. I was much more well-informed, I want to say. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't know, it helped me read things much more in a much better way. And I think that will sort of continue even after I graduate. I don't know, being able to do that sort of translation work was very precious to me. So I think I'll be able to do that with much more ease moving out. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Well done. Okay, our final presenter today is Avery Vovodin. She will be presenting on the internship she had with Western Heads East last summer.
So hello everybody, my name is Avery Voivodin, and today I'll be talking about my summer 2021 internship working with Makonayetu through Western Heads East, which kind of is a road internship between us here. Try to make little purple dots on the map there between London-ish, Ontario, and Mwanza, Tanzania. So before I get started about the work I did as an intern during last summer, here's a little bit more about our community partners. Mikono Yetu is a women-led nonprofit organization based in Mwanza, Tanzania. It is structured as a collaborative program to empower Tanzanian women and young girls. Mikono Yetu's programs are established based on the personal experiences of Tanzanian women to fight against domestic violence and bring about economic empowerment to women to help improve their livelihood. So joining hands together, this is the meaning of Mikono Yetu translated from Swahili. This meaning was exemplified in everything that they did, and the sense of community and support was felt throughout the entirety of my time interning with them. And then overseen by Mikono Yetu organization was Machana TV. Machana TV was founded in 2021, and the channel is run by 15 adolescent girls who were dreaming of becoming journalists, and they provide unique programming written, directed, and produced by girls and for girls. Throughout this internship, we worked directly with this girls group and a few others from different empowerment programs operated by Mikono Yetu. So a little bit more about Machana TV. Kind of their goals here, as on the screen, like their hopes are to empower other girls with knowledge that enables them to challenge social norms and practices that disempower them, strengthen girls' confidence and self-esteem, educate on gender-based violence and reproductive health, and increase community involvement in girls' economic participation. Throughout this internship, here's a little Zoom screens. I worked with Azadeh Adlan, who's also in SASAH in our fourth year cohort, and together we worked to pilot the programs that I'm going to be introducing in just a second. And yeah, we kind of work together and continue to put priority on like cohesive collaboration to achieve our desired outcomes and meet Mikono Yetu's project goals. And here is more about our goals and deliverables. So we continue working with the executive director of Mikono Yetu, Memuna Kanimala. We were able to set out a list of goals and deliverables for the coming months. So we started off with like English learning, so to develop and deliver lessons, article and script writing. We also did a lot of website updates, editing, and creating promotional materials for Machana TV. So yeah, we developed and delivered introductory English lessons with a foundation in media communication. We delivered 3 one-hour lessons a week for a total of 11 weeks. So here's my little screen. So like the please wait for the host to let you in. I ended up counting it, but 237 years in the year prior, I sat in a Zoom waiting room with that message across my screen. But during the last summer, I sat in a Zoom with this phrase, waiting for others to join. And that's that one. Start with the phrase waiting to join the small gray text box as my own face stared back at me. I was now the host, and a role reversal even 2 weeks prior to starting a road internship at Makona yet do. I thought would probably never happen, as I'm someone who was kind of very tentative about public speaking. So this was a great skill to develop and kind of put me outside of my comfort zone. But here I was, a host of a group of girls who did not live in the same time zone or speak the same language as I did. All my public speaking worries aside, working with the girls was a delightful experience. So while I regularly logged into our 7 a.m. classes 3 times a week, the girls' media group were coming back to the Makona Yetu Center in Mwanza, Tanzania after lunch. When the internet connected successfully, Azadeh and I were leading these Zoom meetings where we were responsible for managing the group to deliver these English lessons to the groups with a focus on media communication to aid in their aspirations or careers in journalism. So this is an example of a little lesson plan that we created. Kind of like Puneet was saying earlier, we didn't realize quite how big of a project creating our own lessons was. But yeah, we kind of created a whole series, 11-week introductory program with a focus on media communication. So these lessons included general grammar review, strategic conversation practice, article writing, and script writing. And at the end of each session, we reviewed the lesson, like dedicated time for questions and answers. The group of advanced level girls were then able to like choose topics of their own interests and research and write short articles related to life in Tanzania, which we were then able to publish. Here's the stuff about our little example of some Zoom lessons. Smooth sailing, except for the technology, which sailed like the Titanic. And it wouldn't be a presentation about remote internship without an acknowledgement of the technology that made it happen and frequently failed. Although I've grown about it, there is a beauty to the technology that allowed us to stay connected during the last year and a half. It would have been a harder, lonelier year without it. And although it is not comparable to being in person, this internship had a structure that reflected the importance of community and support in learning, and that warmth and community was not hindered by our pixelization. There's some promotional material that we created. There's also some stuff such as creating training videos that we were able to, that our technical skills conflicted with, but we were able to outsource instructional videos in Swahili and provide resource documents for our community partners. Documents were edited. Editing is just as it sounds. I did not include any screenshot images, as I know for many, just the sight of paperwork may have had the inadvertent effect of snoring, and I don't really want that during my presentation. But roughly like 80 pages of business plans, grant applications, mission statements, meeting minutes, and budget outlines were edited. And although I joked about paperwork, working on these documents I found incredibly valuable, as it provided the opportunity to familiarize myself further with the structure and format of business documents I otherwise would not have had the opportunity to see, as it's the work that kind of exists behind the scenes. So all documents received were edited and returned, and edits were made for grammar and readability, and the integrity of the original content was priority in all of these decisions. And yeah, here's a little tiny zoom of us in the classroom with the girls who were always on one screen. And we were able to especially work on like together a lot, and that was lovely. And this experience provided great opportunities to like especially work on like our flexibility, teamwork, and public speaking, as I was saying before, which are all very valuable transferable skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Avery.
I don't know how to stop sharing. We have to figure that out. Oh, there it is.
There you go. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Talk very fast. Get it over with.
So does anyone have any questions for Avery? Michael?
Hi, Avery. Thanks for the presentation.
Hello.
And, you never got to go to Tanzania.
I did not get to go
No.
to Tanzania. Nope, I visited
Did-
Tanzania from my bedroom.
Right. So did you develop a longing to go there and see some of this in person? I'm just curious on the effect of this on you.
Yes, definitely. I think like I yearn for that connection with the community, to be able to like share some of the same cultural stuff. We did one day where we did our English lesson was structured around sharing instructions. Something they had requested. So we ended up doing that they taught us how to make a meal and we taught them how to make a meal. That was kind of like from our own community. So we got all the ingredients ahead of time, and those kind of things, like you really wish that mine didn't turn out. It was a disaster. Like you wish you could have been in the room with them to be able to actually taste what it was supposed to be and that kind of stuff. In that way, I do wish I was able to be there.
Constanza, did you want to ask a question?
I wanted to ask the same question Michael just asked.
Oh, okay. Does anyone else have a question for Avery? Era?
It's not a question. I just want everyone to know that this Avery is the person who made the incredible quilted piece for the Satellite Gallery exhibition that is now on display until tomorrow. This is like shameless promotion, but Avery's piece is truly astonishing. Pieced together from 11,000 or so 1-inch squares cut from recycled face masks. It's amazing. So Avery, I just, if anything is experiential learning, making that quilt top was also, and so I just wanted to insert that little comment in there. Sorry to embarrass you.
If you have time, go up to the gallery tomorrow with Celeste.
Okay. I actually have one question before I let you go, Avery. So you were talking about how public speaking, these weren't necessarily playing to your strengths. What strengths did you draw on for your experience?
I would definitely say like the flexibility and teamwork, like that immediate kind of communication and like kind of rolling with the punches as things happen. I find that I tend to be pretty good at, and that was definitely beneficial, especially when we're dealing with the technology and just the communication barriers and just being able to clearly lay out everything with our back and forths and accommodating that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so important. It's hard enough, when you're in person doing an internship, but when you're thousands of miles away and relying on technology. So well done.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our presentations today. As I said, it's a short session today, but I want to thank our presenters. You did a great job, all of you. And congratulations on the great jobs you did on your experiential learning as well. As always, I got great feedback from your supervisors. I just had the easiest job ever. I love working with you all, just hearing about how you're growing and changing with these experiences. And thank you again to our guests today for coming out and supporting our program and these great students. As always, I will post the presentations along with the students' final reports in the Scholarship at Western page. The final reports are amazing. And we get downloads, people downloading them from all over the world from that site. So they're always there for reference. And the video of this event today, heavily edited from the beginning, will be posted on our website. I will then hand it over to Era to wrap it up for us today.
Thank you so much, Barb. I also need to thank the 4 student presenters who have shared such a range of experiences that I think really do demonstrate the value of experiential learning. And it's not obviously just the practical skills that you acquired, but the self-knowledge that comes with taking on these new and different challenges. And I think doing these things during the pandemic adds an extra layer of experience that may have seemed, more challenging and difficult, but I think also probably was very valuable in terms of your learning about yourself and the world. So thank you so much to Puneet and Gallus and Avery and Mahi. I want to thank Jonathan Vickers for running everything so smoothly on Zoom today and also in the office every day. And I really want to thank Dr. Barbara Bruce for her careful and impeccable stewardship of SASAH's EL program. She has established and cared for dozens of community partnerships so that our students have access to a wide range of opportunities, even in the challenging times that we've been living through. Her care in placing and mentoring our students ensures that each experience is truly an opportunity for profound learning. And also she is an absolute delight to work with. Thank you so much, Barb. I too also want to thank our guests for spending time with us today. We appreciate your support more than we can say. And with that, I just will wish you all a wonderful first weekend of April.
Thank you, everyone.